going to hand it off to Don.
Thank you, Paul. I just noticed that you have me speaking at two places in this meeting. So I'm going to have to save some of my best material or spread it out a little bit. I wanted to just say a little bit more about myself because as I heard other people introduce themselves and give a bit more information, I realized my intro was relatively short. And I'm looking through this room and I realized there's a lot of you I haven't really met or don't know that well. I'm a family lawyer in New Westminster. I first joined the party in 2017. I ran as a candidate in that election in North Vancouver. I ran in the federal by-election of December 2018 for the Libertarian, the Federal Libertarian Party. And then more recently, I volunteered on two campaigns in the most recent federal campaign, although I did volunteer with the PPC. I was a campaign manager of one campaign and just a volunteer for a for a separate federal by-election in Burnaby South. So that was an interesting one, running against the NDP federal leader. His name's escaping me right now. Jagmeet, yeah. He was a piece of work. He called our candidate racist during the debate for no reason at all, but that's sort of his style. So that's sort of been my involvement. I was until 2018, until the last AGM we had, I was president for a year. I had a 1-year term, and I was elected leader at that 2018 AGM, and I've been leader since then. And it's in a lot of ways it's been a really difficult period for the party. There was a few significant challenges. The most obvious and perhaps regular one that might be experienced by any political party is being in the middle or being in between elections. Was something that was new for me to go through because I joined this party right, in the months leading up to a provincial election when excitement was at its highest. Volunteers were most interested in contributing to the party. Energy was high, motivation was high, and we worked really hard, and I think we did a great job. And there was a lot of, as I said, interest and energy in building and maintaining the party. And as time has gone on, as the years have passed since that election, there's just, I've realized there's been a sort of a natural disinterest in people in provincial politics, and this is, I don't think anything to be, I don't want to say ashamed of or afraid of. I think it's probably something that's going to be inevitable to the election cycle. It was just something I hadn't experienced before. So that's one thing we've had to sort of contend with or wrestle with. And of course, Paul and the executive and the committees have done just an incredible job, and the constituency associations, despite the fact that there's no election on. There was no election on the immediate horizon. They've done such a great job of continuing to build those organizations and those systems out, and to continue meeting and to continue to advance the party without that immediate motivation. So that's been one interesting challenge. And the other significant challenge is maybe a bit surprising, was the coming into existence of the PPC. And really, this posed a significant challenge to our party. You would have thought that the emergence of a federal sort of liberty-friendly party would have been positive, and I think ultimately I do think it was, but it wasn't exclusively positive for the party. We had, the first thing we had was quite a significant division among membership about whether the PPC or the federal Libertarians were a better federal vehicle for to advance our ideas. Now, while I think we all could see technically that shouldn't really be that necessarily relevant to our provincial affairs and the running of our provincial party. The way things like this go, with when people have very personal, very heartfelt emotions and attachments to these political affiliations. So it did present a lot of division in our party. I think there's no other way to say that. I know one of our past candidates expressed, because he expressed that he may not run with the party again, because he perceived that we, as a provincial party, were cleaving ourselves too tightly to the PPC, whereas we had members of the executive who ended up resigning because, and they're not here to speak for themselves, but my perception ultimately was that they resigned because they didn't feel that our party was doing enough to associate itself with the PPC. So there's an incredible amount of tension, and kudos to Paul for navigating all of that and keeping the priority on the party and the provincial party, and being very clear that we weren't going to have any affiliation with the PPC or the federal Libertarian Party. We are our own independent organization, and of course, members are free to have federal affiliations that are consistent with their heart and with their conscience. So I think Paul did a terrific job navigating those very rough waters there. But we did lose our vice president, and we did lose our elected regional caucus chair. And these are two very important executive roles. So that was another significant struggle that we dealt with over the last 18 months. Because, and then a third thing, and related to that, is that we had a brand new constitution enacted in October of 2018. And it was a complete overhaul. It wasn't an edit of the old one. It was a completely new document, and we were all figuring out our roles and what we were supposed to be doing, and how the procedure of executive meetings and the party was supposed to work. And we learned some things along the way that it wasn't exactly very easy to replace the vice president or RCC. That took some creative thinking, or thinking outside the box, or thinking outside the Constitution, whatever however you might want to put that. So dealing with the new Constitution and this PPC challenge, existence of the PPC, and then of course there was the federal election last year, which it just takes up a lot of oxygen, if you will. Of course we're all politically motivated, and so it's only natural that many of our most active members, pardon me, and executive spent a considerable time volunteering and being involved at the federal level. And this is understandable and even admirable, but of course it means that they're not necessarily available to contribute to the party. And as I said myself, I was a campaign manager during the federal election, so I certainly can't be in a position to dump on anybody too harshly for what I myself did. And I think, and then there were, this should be positive, right? But I also want to be just honest about the challenges we faced, right? And, I also found it challenging being a part of the PPC. And I think, and I hope those who weren't supportive of the PPC could sort of understand this view, was that, seeing someone like Maxime Bernier come and lead at least an ostensibly or arguably liberty-friendly party was in a way almost sort of a dream come true, for me. I couldn't, it's hard to think of a more, I don't want to say hard to think of a better leader, but, it's hard to realistically expect, a realistic political outcome better than someone like a sitting member of parliament choosing to lead a brand new liberty-centered party. And so I was very excited about that, and I thought good things would come of it. I thought we had a real chance to to get our first MP, liberty-friendly MP in place who was, explicitly, sort of liberty-minded. And of course, that election, the PVC did terribly. Had terrible results. It seemed like every party did terribly. Oddly enough, it was a very strange election. I think everyone failed and every party failed in their objective. But so I think just from a personal perspective, it took me some time to sort of recover after that election and just to sort of reassess my goals in politics and sort of fighting from the outside, as it were, as we are all doing, and how best to do that, how to build, how to advance these ideas that aren't mainstream, that aren't part of the two-party system. So, that was another, I think, very significant challenge for the party. As I said, despite that, the executive, in particular the president, navigated these turbulent waters very well, established a number of constituency associations throughout the province, established these committees that have been having monthly meetings, maintaining social media accounts, maintaining the website, maintaining membership lists. We also switched to a brand new website right around the time of the last AGM. And anybody who knows that, who has done that kind of work before, knows what kind of headaches that can be involved with switching to a new system. So our executive's also been managing that over the last 18 months, and I think doing an excellent job. And despite all the challenges, I look around today. I mean, sort of somewhat metaphorically, but I skimmed through my Zoom here and see a lot of new faces, and a lot of hardworking, intelligent people ready to continue to carry this torch of liberty. And I think this is, I think it's a really great sign that we've managed to sort of to reach new people and inspire new people. I think this is a sign that we're still on the right track and that we're doing the right work to keep people motivated and to keep fighting this impossible seeming battle for liberty. And I think we all know in this time of COVID, the scale of fear around us is just extraordinary, and the scale to which people seem ready to abandon their liberties to the state, and the scale with which the state is assuming new responsibilities. It's a scary time for those of us who cherish liberty, for those of us who believe that liberty is the best way to protect and advance human flourishing. Because it just seems every day, more and more that some form of authoritarianism is, the encroach of authoritarianism continues on, and that we lose more and more ground. And, with the pandemic, or more specifically with the response to the pandemic, we've had such extraordinary economic dislocation in this country and around the world. And for those of us who are sort of sound money people, it's also a very nerve-wracking time, because there's just hundreds of billions and trillions of fiat currency being pumped into the system, and nobody really seems to know what kind of effect this is going to have on the economy, on the dollar, the U.S. dollar or the Canadian dollar. Of course, they're tied together so much. I saw the U.S. GDP contracted, I think 32.9% in the first quarter. That reading came out last week, and I've heard informal reports that youth unemployment in this province is as high as 30% right now. I mean, these are kind of numbers that are associated with with great societal upheaval, which rarely corresponds with times of increased liberty and freedom and prosperity. And of course, we see our neighbors to the south, so many of their cities are beset by sort of just this constant protesting, really for weeks now, and in areas devolving into riots, or Occupy Washington, or the sort of the Portland siege of federal courthouse, and then on the other side, in response, we see the state, traveling around in unmarked cars, picking up protesters and rioters who I guess will have to trust that they were, that there's some kind of due process that will be afforded to these people. So it's a scary time for those of us who cherish liberty and who believe it is one of the most, if not the most important principle, guiding principle to bring us again to a peaceful, prosperous society. So I think it's as important as ever for us to stay focused and stay vigilant, and to continue to try to communicate this, message that, how else do I call it but an unpopular message, or a message that just isn't quite in people's minds yet. But I think it's as important as ever for us to continue to try to articulate these ideas and explain how the protection of private property, protection of individual liberty, the individual person, how limited government, how free market economics, how all of these things work to make society, everybody in society, better off, more peaceful and more prosperous. So in the year ahead with the party, we will of course be looking, well, I shouldn't say of course, because it's not scheduled yet. I should know this. Let me backtrack on that. There's going to be an election soon. I'm sure of that. Eventually, there's going to be an election. I think it's October 21.
October 21st, 2021.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I did know that. See, I just didn't want to misspeak. So, so about 14 months out from an election. So obviously that's going to be, my priority and my focus over the next year is to try to develop a platform and to start developing candidates and identifying candidates and identifying and developing candidates. So that's something I'm trying to talk to about everybody, and so everybody who is on the line here. I'm really hopeful that everybody who's on the line here, you've stepped up to come give one of your Saturday afternoons to the party here and help keep administering this party. I hope that we can call on you again when the election comes to, at the very least, put your name down as someone who stands, for liberty in this province. If nothing else, to just be a paper candidate. Of course, we want to do more, and we'll support any person who hasn't done it before or who has done it before to go through the steps needed to qualify as a candidate in your riding. A lot of that will be going through. So under the new constitution, the idea is that we're going to try to have the constituency associations produce candidates for their areas. So hopefully that will work. Of course, it'll be the first time. And so I've been meaning to reach out to Raymond. I know you're on the line here, and we'll definitely have a chat real soon, Raymond, about how we might start communicating with the different RCC presidents and mapping out how their candidate identification process might go. And my view is always simpler the better. Anyways, I don't want to get into the weeds about process and the things to come, but that's going to be my focus in the next year. And of course, for the executive and the sort of the administration, there's going to be a lot of new faces. So I suspect, a lot of the year will probably be spent getting up to speed on old systems, identifying ways that they want to change things, and sort of developing their own ways of doing things. So I think that's roughly what we're looking forward to in the year ahead. once again, thank you all so much for coming out today. It's here anyways, a beautiful Saturday afternoon. And, I appreciate you coming out here, giving your time, devoting, your project to what can sometimes feel like a Sisyphean task of advancing liberty in this province. But you're all here, and I really appreciate it. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks very much for those kind words, Don. That was a great speech, and I'm totally on board with those priorities. The election coming up is priority number one for sure. I think you're going to do a great job.